are sharing the news, the breaking news that happened at the top of the hour, with Sean McDermott now signed to a multi-year contract extension. Kim Pegula releasing a statement about that, saying they're pretty much happy with everything that Sean's done, and how who he is doesn't change no matter who he is dealing with in the building. I think that really resonates with Kim and Terry Pegula. They like genuine people who are genuine with everybody, and that is Coach McDermott through and through, without question. So a tremendous example in the building and tremendous results on the field. And here to share his thoughts on the multi-year contract extension signed by Coach McDermott is a person who played under Coach McDermott in the 2017 season, also the color commentator on the Bills radio network for the games, along with one John Murphy. It's Eric Wood joining us on the line. Eric, thanks for carving out some time for us. How you doing, man, in this offseason? It's almost football time, buddy.
It is. It's gearing up for football time, and I'm watching headlines on if the ACC and college football is going to play, see if I'm working double duty again this year. But I love the direction the NFL is taking right now, and to jump right into it, I love the direction that the Buffalo Bills are heading, locking up Sean McDermott long term. And I've made my thoughts on Sean McDermott made known over the years. I have a ton of respect for Sean McDermott, and the fact that his family will be able to be assured that they'll be here for even longer. And one of the hardest things about the coaching business is that it can just be so sudden, the change and the turnover in the business and what city you're in and all that. And just to be locked up and get some security is just it's an incredible honor for him and his family, but it's well deserved. He is. You mentioned it in the opening of this segment. I've always said this. He's one of the most consistent people I've ever been around in my life, and that was from a player's perspective. And then you hear it from the ownership perspective and how consistent he is on a day-to-day basis, how he treats people, and then the results on the field. Besides the crazy year, which was 2018, where the salary cap situation had to be rectified, that he has one down year with the Bills, takes them to playoffs 2 out of 3 years, and the position that the Bills are at with so much young talent on the team, so much continuity. They're just in a tremendous spot right now, and when you're in that kind of spot, you reward the head coach who's put in so much time and effort.
Yeah, it's been reported now by Ian Rappaport that it's a 6-year extension that goes to 2025. It's 4 years onto the year, 4 years
onto the two
that were left on this deal. So he's signed through Buffalo for 2025. And you mentioned too, and not that nothing, but the thing that gets me about this is now Sean McDermott's kids are going to be Buffalo kids. I know they were born other places, but they're going to go through their formative years with their dad coaching the Buffalo Bills. He's going to be a Buffalo guy. Their kids are going to be Buffalo kids. They're going to be Western New Yorkers. They're going to be part of the family here in Western New York until they head off to college probably. And it's kind of fun to think about that kind of stretch coming ahead for Sean McDermott and this team. And how do you think now, Eric, and I'll ask you this, it seems to me they really have this thing exactly where they want it at the present time. And the question is, can they stay competitive year in, year out? Standing right where they're at now, it seems the answer would be yes.
Yeah, I absolutely think you're correct. With what they have on defense, I mean, you saw last year how dominant that defense could be. You have so much continuity coming back on the offensive side of the football, too. Yes, they can absolutely be competitive. Do you need development from Josh Allen to be a Super Bowl contender, a Super Bowl favorite to start the year? Yeah, maybe. But where they're at right now is so much further ahead than pretty much my entire Bills career there, the 9 years I spent up there, and many years prior. The stability the organization has to compete year in and year out is just a testament to the people they've brought in, the coaching staff they've built, the scouting department, the whole front office is just tremendous. The leadership from the top with the Pegulas down through Brandon Beane and his staff and Sean McDermott and his staff, the Bills are just in an incredible situation. And you add on top of that how well they've drafted as an organization since Sean McDermott's been there. He's a big part of that. Him and Brandon Beane work hand in hand on those things, and they're just in a tremendous spot right now.
So, Eric, the one thing that I wanted to get from you, because you're one of the few people that can speak to this, in your 9 years here, you had 4 head coaches. You had Geron for a year, then you had Chan, you had Marone, and then you had 1 year with Coach McDermott. before you were forced into early retirement. The first day in the room with Coach McDermott, how and what ways – oh, and you had Rex too. Sorry, I conveniently left him out.
And I actually had 7 because there was 2 interim head coaches.
Right. So irrespective of that, what was different about the first day in the room with Coach McDermott that gave you the sense that things are going to be different and different in a good way?
I'll be honest, not a ton on day one. Coach McDermott came in, and with each coaching staff, they have certain core values that they'll preach to. They have certain things that they say they're going to bring in that builds confidence. What got me with Coach McDermott was how he approached every single day, and a lot of it's just his attention to detail, which is well known around the entire National Football League, how detailed he is day in and day out. He comes into every single meeting with an absolute a plan, a motivation tactic, whatever it may be. Just he leads at all times, and he's just so intentional with all of his actions, all of his words. So there wasn't some crazy rah-rah speech. There wasn't, as he sits in front of the room, it wasn't the Braveheart speech. It was just, hey, I'm gonna lead by example, consistency day in and day out. That's what I expect from you, or else you won't be here. Some of the things they did early with getting rid of guys that didn't fit what they have identified as their DNA, that spoke volumes, because you're going to take lumps in the national media. You're going to take lumps from the community when you get rid of high draft picks like they did, when you get rid of guys who have been given long-term extensions. When you do those types of things, it's risky. But he had a plan, and he stuck to it, and it's paid off for him.
What are your thoughts about how likely it is, or are you optimistic or pessimistic about the NFL's ability to get a 16-game regular season in? I know that when you watch Hard Knocks, and I did that, and I've been around the building here at One Bills Drive, every team seems to really be putting an enormous amount of effort towards staying virus-free, and it seems as though it gives me a lot of optimism that they may pull it off. What are your thoughts about the likelihood of getting a season in without a hitch?
Yeah, I think it's highly likely, honestly. If you get to the point where it comes September 12th and you're ready to kick this season off, and that's the Bills' first game, I guess 2 days prior or 3 days prior would be the season opener. If you get to that point and we're ready to kick this sucker off, and everyone takes it as serious as they are right now, and no one gets lax, and a lot of it's going to be people's families and whoever they interact with as well. If no one gets lax on this thing, you could get a full NFL season this year. You should get a full NFL season, which would be absolutely phenomenal for all the individual communities, people around the country that are just looking for some bit of normalcy, some form of entertainment, in what is America's favorite pastime, everyone's favorite form of entertainment. NFL football should be back this fall.
We'd be remiss, Eric, if we didn't mention, the other half of your job, which is ACC football, and that seems to be hanging in the balance a little bit in the wake of the decisions by the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and the Mountain West and the Mid-American conferences and even the Ivy League to say no fall sports, will revisit it January 1. I don't know if you've heard any rumblings, but we know there are supposed to be meetings today for some of these conferences, the Big 12, the SEC, the ACC. Do you have any gut feeling as to how things will come down with those respective conferences, including the one you cover, the ACC?
Yeah, all I know is that a lot of the ACC schools, the people that I've talked to from those schools, are all in on a season being played. They honestly and genuinely feel that it's better and safer for those, I'll call them kids, 18 to 22-year-old young men on these teams to be within the building. And you get to see it on Hard Knocks, all the protocols, all the measures that NFL teams are doing. Well, the colleges are doing the same thing. Now, some colleges can't afford to do it. A lot of those MAC schools, they don't have the enormous TV contracts that the Big 12, the ACC, the SEC have. They don't have those big contracts to be able to even do the amount of testing that needs to happen. But the University of Louisville, for instance, where I live in the off season, they have gone through so many measures that they're at 0 positive tests now, and they've been that way for a number of weeks. Now, when you have guys reporting back, as you see with a number of NFL teams, you get guys that will show up positive. And now those numbers are going down dramatically as they're on campus. I think you have to allow it all to play out a few more weeks with this college deal, make sure that they can even go through their own training camps and everything without there being a number of positive tests. But I truly believe, Coach Satterfield, who coached for the University of Louisville, was on the Today Show yesterday after speaking out really harshly on Monday against some of the leadership in college football that has let these young men down. And he was adamant that he truly feels that they're safer on campus. And I'll tell you what, from my experience, I would have wanted to play if I was in college right now. I moved off to college, and my little brother took over my room. So you got a lot of these guys that go home, and they're living in places that they're not getting the nutrition that they're getting at school. You're getting the tests and everything else that you're getting at school, and you're also taking a lot of decisions off these young men's plate where they don't really have the option to go to parties. I keep referencing the University of Louisville because that's where I live. There was a party on campus held by 3 soccer players. They've kicked all of them off the team. So they are extremely serious about trying to get fall sports off in the ACC.
That seems to be the real elephant in the room when you get these guys in football, certainly in the football practice, in the meeting rooms, in the facilities around the, Vanderbilt football, LSU football, Alabama football. Certainly it's safer because it's a closed community. What happens when the general student body gets on campus and these guys have to go to class or and have to intermingle with students who could not possibly care less about the football season?
No, and that's an extremely valid point. If I'm an academic advisor, if I'm advising these players, I'm trying to get them into as many online classes as possible, if not all online classes for the fall, maybe even this entire school year, because that is an option at many universities now. And I'm getting them in as many of those. And if you have to go to school, you practice social distancing techniques with your mask. You keep your 6 feet apart, and honestly, if you're using the appropriate measures, that's no, it's not fair to say that those kids would be sitting in their rooms their entire time at home. I would even argue them going to class with a mask on where everything's being monitored would be much safer than sending these kids all across the country back to their houses.
Radio color man Eric Wood for the Buffalo Bills Radio Network. Thank you for the time, Eric. We appreciate you jumping on short notice here, and hopefully we see you sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'm hoping so, too. Thanks for having me on, guys. Always a pleasure.
All right, Wood. Take care.
Eric Wood, the Bills radio color man, former center of the Bills for 9 seasons. Had to retire early, as we know, with that neck injury. But still really heavily invested in this team, still roots for this team, and you can hear it in him. He's fired up for Coach. Has always had it. And this is a guy that only played for 1 season under Coach McDermott. And, he just oozes praise for him as a coach and what he represents as a leader of men. So that's why we wanted to get him on and get his take on, this extension being given to Coach McDermott. A multi-year extension, which is now being reported, as Steve mentioned, by Ian Rappaport, as being a 6-year extension, basically the last 2 years of his first deal plus 4 more on top of that, which means he's pretty much signed through 2025 for Buffalo.